You're watching a CBG TV content provider broadcast.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or CBGTV.com. The medical and health information shared does not constitute a physician-patient relationship. It is provided for general informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional care.
You're gonna get so high because we're pot smoking. I said we're getting high because we're pot smoking. We're gonna get so high because we're pot smoking. That's right, we're getting high because we're pot smoking. Good morning, sunshine. How you feeling? Good morning, sunshine. How you feeling?
Good morning.
How are you, buddy?
How you feeling?
I'm okay.
Good.
I do have a little echo, but I can deal with it.
I don't know why.
As long as everybody else can deal with it. Envy might be able to tell us if he's here.
I don't know.
I haven't changed anything. So anyway, good morning. Oh, it gets louder when I yell.
Yeah.
Beaner.
It's good though, because I'm having a hard time hearing you a little bit.
Oh, so I should yell.
Yelling's good.
No, I don't like yelling.
Yeah, you're good at it though.
I actually do. I love yelling. Especially when Beaner's in trouble. I'm like, Beaner. Good morning to everybody, and good afternoon out there on CBGTV. That's a tongue twister when you want it to be.
Yeah.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Da.Hippie. This is Dr. High. Happy Veterans Day today.
Yes. Remembrance Day in Canada.
Remembrance Day in Canada.
But that's technically tomorrow.
Yes, I think that they're just giving people off today because the actual holiday is tomorrow.
Okay, so it's the same idea.
No too early for what? The echo? Yeah, I agree. I think it's Dr. High. He's sick.
Could be. Could be this big timbering voice.
It's echoing in his head.
Yep.
Anyway.
Well, I got no taste buds today, and I can't hear very well, so. Oh, it's you, hippie. Dr. High isn't echoing.
All right, I'm out of here. I'll be back.
You're high. So good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us on CBG TV and WTHC Radio. If you're with us on Facebook or YouTube, hope everybody's doing well today. It's Friday. Finally, the week is coming to an end, and we can look forward to the weekend where we can just relax, enjoy ourselves, stay well medicated, and go from there. So, from what I understand, we have an interesting show today. Hippie's clued me in just a little bit to it, but we'll get to details as soon as he returns, I suppose. So, what's everyone smoking out there today, Frank? How you doing, Steve? How's things down under? Oh, look at you.
Hello.
Hello.
Damn it.
What the guan?
All right, I quit. I'm done.
Huh?
It's still echoing. I quit. I'm done. That's it for the show today.
I wonder what's causing it.
Oh, I know what's causing it. me a second. This goddamn phone.
What's causing it is all that good candy runs.
Yes. The Squatch.
Today, I tasted a new Bruce Banner. Whoa. It's incredible.
You had yourself some Bruce Banner.
Yeah, I can't taste anything today. No taste buds at all. It's bizarre. Smoking the jet fuel after work today, Kyle? Just about that time. Hey, you're back. What's going on?
Got the fucking echo. I'm done. I'm not talking today. You're in charge.
I don't hear the echo. Did anybody else out there hear it or just Garrett?
Let's just get it on. Here comes Katie. Welcome in, Katie. Everybody, KD Neeley, a military vet.
Hi.
Hey, Katie.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Can you guys hear me?
Well, thanks for joining us. How's things?
Good. Hanging in there.
Nice. Good stuff. So thanks for joining us today. Hippie didn't have much opportunity to tell me much about your story. We know that you are a veteran, so thank you for your service. Absolutely. And he also said that you have found some therapeutic benefit in the inclusion of cannabis in your life.
Yes.
And that's what we would like to know about. Absolutely. So if you care to share some of your story with us, we'd love to hear.
Sure. So I've been diagnosed with severe PTSD. Do you guys hear that echo or is it just me?
Yeah, I hear it. It's driving me nuts. I have everything shut down.
All right. Well, PTSD is an interesting beast. I used to think it wasn't real. I didn't think PTSD was real until I was diagnosed with it. And they're like, no, this is what's going on. And I was like, oh, okay.
I think it's Beaner.
So what was it about?
Down
What's
out
that?
of Beaner. I'm losing my mind.
What, that just started today?
Just started now. 10 minutes ago.
No, I'm talking about losing your mind, not the echo.
I'll mute myself. I'm happy.
So, you have dealt with PTSD for how long now?
Well, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure when the symptoms began. So PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is typically any stress you experience after the event that caused the stress has already occurred.
Right. So there's an incident that kind of embeds the PTSD into you in a way. Like there's a moment in time, a car accident, something of that nature that.
Now, after something like a car accident, post-traumatic stress is actually normal for a short amount of time. But it normally will wear off. When you have severe PTSD, that stress is ongoing. It sort of replays itself and recreates itself.
Right. So it's similar to what the hippie has told us about occurred in his life. He was in a very serious accident at one time, and unfortunately somebody lost their life in that experience. And that has left the hippie traumatized and very uncomfortable in riding in cars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. He's just doesn't feel safe in a vehicle. So he uses cannabis to combat that, I don't know, what do you feel? Is it an anxiety you feel, or a fear, or
You actually,
like, how does it manifest the experience for you?
so it has to do with your inner cortex and your outer cortex. Your outer cortex is a filter around your inner cortex. And when you have PTSD, it's like you have holes in your outer cortex. So signals that are normally processed by the outer cortex and filtered, letting you know where it came from and what it's about, they make it through these holes and they trigger your inner cortex. So you may have an illogical response to something like a balloon popping. You might take cover if somebody opens the garage door.
Right. So you can't, the trigger isn't actually predictable, or maybe some would be predictable, but other times
Could
it's
be
just
a loud noise. It could be a smell. The
Okay.
trigger could be anything. And you may not even realize what your own triggers are. It
Okay.
takes studying yourself, using techniques for mindfulness and some therapy to start to figure out what your triggers are
Right.
and deal with them.
Can you explain to me a little bit about what sort of techniques, like how do these techniques work, or what is the process that you go through? You don't have to be specific about your own situation unless you feel comfortable doing so. That's entirely up to you. But I'm sure that the process for treating PTSD is kind of the same process, right? They'll prescribe to a lot of people. You just have to work through the steps, or
If
is it
only.
really very individualized?
It's very individualized.
Okay.
And there's no like one size fits all solution. There's very little understanding about how PTSD works
Okay.
and how it can be medicated and treated. Medicated and treated. So treatment, or rather, let's say medication, isn't particularly useful without treatment.
Right. Because you're combating like a chemical response, and then you also have the psychological component, right?
The psychological component is huge. I remember when I was first prescribed duloxetine, I felt that the moment it kicked in. They told me it was going to take a while and that I may not notice the changes. And when you're experiencing psychological changes as a result of medication, oh my God, that echo. When you're experiencing psychological transformation, you don't know it's the meds. If you feel good, you think you don't need the meds. Then you stop taking them. And it's a delayed reaction. So by the time it's working, you think you don't need it. You stop taking it. You end up in the cycle because you go backwards.
Right.
So I started doing something called check-ins. I would make an audio recording of myself, from myself to my future self, and say, hey, this is Katie. This is how I feel today. You know, I've got the shakes. I've got tremors today. I feel like shit. There, you know, it's around the 4th of July. Fireworks are going off and I just want to kill someone. That sort of thing. And then I save those check-ins.
Okay.
So then I replay them later. And I have evidence for myself how I'm being affected by the medication.
Oh, that's interesting, right? Because recall is very funny, right? If you just try to remember something, then, you know, details get skewed amongst your perception and different things like that. But I guess by creating these moments in time for yourself that are 100% authentic in the moment, and then going back to them at a later time, then you don't have to worry about this, you know, ever losing that information, right? That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And you find it beneficial? Like it makes a difference for you to follow this process?
Well, self-awareness is what makes the difference. So the more you become aware of who you are and how you're affected and how to deal with how things affect you, you start to grow.
Okay.
Cannabis is a medication.
Yes.
It
100%.
should be understood that it's a medication.
Yes.
And you need to realize that when you have PTSD, especially severe PTSD, you have to be careful with cannabis. A sativa can make you too paranoid. It can even make you more jittery. It can exemplify your anxiety.
Yes. High THC also, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So you may not be after the THC. It might be a different cannabinoid that's helping you.
Yes. So you find for yourself, your preference leans towards indicas, or do you try to balance them out day and nighttime, but look for strains that are lower in THC, in a lower range, as opposed to these 30s and 28s looking more, 16s and 18s? How do you?
Well, so my doctor has told me avoid sativas. Smoke an indica before bed. Just let it help you sleep. But I'm honestly, I'll smoke anything, and I'm a kind of a party animal.
Huh?
To be honest, I love smoking pot.
Yeah,
I even enjoy a little bit of the anxiety coming back on sometimes, if that makes sense. It's sort of an adrenaline rush.
Okay.
And I love sativas. I love the zap. They give you kind of a zap.
Well, they're energizing, right? Sativas are energizing in their nature and their terpene profile. So that's do you pay attention to terpenes and things like that when you're shopping?
I should, but no, when I go shopping, I usually try to get.
I'm sorry to interrupt you guys. We have to go to commercial.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you guys. We have to go to commercial. KD, I want you to leave the stream and then come back when we're in commercial break.
Okay.
Okay.
And we have to run the commercial anyway. It kind of works like a real show.
Have you ever pondered cannabis beyond the haze? Would you like to know more about this incredible plant? Dive into drhigh.com. Unlock medical wonders, master home-based crafts, and debunk myths. Do you support our mission? Shop Dr. High AI Haze on Etsy for cannabis-themed clothing, mugs, and digital downloads using original AI cannabis art. Hell, we might even have some psychedelic mushroom items there too. We also have 25 books on cannabis and specific medical conditions available at Dr. High on Amazon.com. drhigh.com, cannabis information, education, and advocacy.
Announcing CBGTV's Bud Break book. Get your copy now. Detailed strain reviews. Every purchase supports the ongoing efforts of CBGTV. Available from Amazon and at cbgtv.com or scan the QR code.
Say bye-bye to bottled water. Holistic Health Water has certified medical-grade water ionizers that make 7 types of water, including healthy alkaline. There's a 5-micron filter that lasts up to a year, and each machine lasts 25 to 30 years. Simply attach to your faucet or install under your sink. Even get a mineral spa unit for your shower. Go to ownyourwater.org to get a free ebook. Plus, pay for any machine in full and get an extra filter free. Change your water and change your life. ownyourwater.org. Discover the natural path to wellness at Tailored Herbs and Concentrates.
Herbs?
With a passion for holistic health, we are your trusted source for premium herbs and concentrates.
Wait a minute, do they have weed?
Our dedicated team is here to guide you on your wellness journey. Open 7 days a week, 10 to 10, ensuring you have access to what you need when you need it most. Tailored Herbs and Concentrates is located
They're pot.
2941 Highway 11, Burnt Church, New Brunswick, Canada. If you need assistance anytime,
I need assistance. I need weed.
just call 506-871-4299. Tailored Herbs and Concentrates.
Where all the potheads go.
WTHC Radio. You're hanging with Da.Hippie and Dr. High, but we are experiencing some technical difficulties right now.
What technical difficulties?
Right, so we were waiting for the hippie to get back.
What's that?
We were waiting for the hippie to get back.
Okay.
And yeah, I'll let you take it away, Dr. High.
Do we have Katie back? Well, no Katie back yet, but I think we're going to have an interesting conversation with her. Oh, hey, how are you?
Hey, I'm
Doing
back.
well? You know, as I'm looking at your name on the screen there, it looks familiar to me. You've been on Facebook for a while in the cannabis communities?
No.
No?
No, in fact, I didn't start using cannabis probably till, let's see, I was diagnosed with PTSD in 2016.
Okay.
And I started treating it with cannabis probably in 2018.
Okay. And are you active on Facebook in the cannabis community currently?
No,
No. Okay.
not really. Maybe in
Yeah, I
the
was just
knitting
curious because
community.
your name looks familiar to me for some reason. I'm just trying to figure out from where.
I'm a visual artist and a tech artist.
Oh, so that's your art behind you.
Yeah,
Oh, that's very cool.
thanks.
Very cool. It's my kind of style too. It's the sort of thing I like. It's very I don't know how you would describe it, but it's cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, I like it.
I'm having
So
fun
I'm
with this
wondering,
one.
could you share a little bit of your background with us in your military service?
Sure. I enlisted in the Marine Corps for artistic inspiration.
For artistic inspiration?
Yeah.
Is that what
so
you just said? Really? You
it
enlisted in
is.
the Marine Corps for artistic inspiration?
Yes.
How can you explain that for me? I don't
Sure. So I was sleeping on my grandma's couch. And she would
Okay.
always watch the news. And it was around 9/11. You know, the wars were going on and bombings were happening. And I felt like I couldn't trust the media.
Okay.
I felt like with all the skills I had developed as an artist,
Right.
I could paint anything I could imagine. And I had nothing to say. So I wanted to go out in the world and gain experience for myself. That's why, and I was in Young Marines as a child.
Okay.
So I liked the camping and the bivouacs and the guns and all that stuff. You know, I had a lot of fun. So I
Okay.
thought, okay, I'll enlist in the Marine Corps. And it was pretty much my only option anyway. I had gotten out of high school. I had lived in Rio Rancho, where you can't
Okay.
even really walk anywhere at that time.
Right.
And I didn't have a driver's permit. I didn't have a job. I didn't have money to get insurance, to get a license, to get to work.
Right.
That was sort of the cycle I was stuck in.
Yeah, it's a trap, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's
the
a trap, and it's
military-
not of your own making. It's just the circumstances, your location and availability. Yeah, I get it. I just moved from a year and a half living in the country, and I've lived in Montreal and Edmonton and big cities pretty much all my life, right? And we went to the country for a year and a half, and I could have pulled my hair out. You couldn't do anything if you didn't have a car. You'd have been done. So yeah, I get it. I could see exactly how somebody could get caught up in that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it really, I didn't have like a sense of patriotism.
Okay.
I had sort of a mercenary state of mind, a little bit like a pirate.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
like, okay, you hire me, I'll go shoot who you want me to shoot.
The adventure, right, of the experience.
Yeah, not the best set of ethics at the time.
Okay.
But ready to get out on my own and survive.
And serve your country and do what you believed in doing, I guess, right?
Oh,
and I guess it's quite an adventure. I've never served in the military, but I've known people who have, and I can understand the draw, for sure. And were you able to find artistic inspiration in that? In your
well, I think
experiences?
life will give you artistic inspiration, whether you like it or not.
Whether it be positive or negative, I guess, because you can be inspired in a multitude of ways. That would make
some
sense,
of the
right?
most exquisite paintings and art come from the depths of the worst sadness.
Right. Huh. Yeah, it's interesting, right? I think art is a pretty incredible way to express. Do you find art therapeutic for you?
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
Art has always been my source of therapy. Ever since I was a child. I didn't have very good social skills. Wasn't good at making friends. Never felt close to people. So art was my way of communicating when I didn't know how to talk to anyone.
Right. Right. Huh. Isn't that something? So how you transitioned away from into civilian life how many years ago?
I got out of the Marine Corps in 2007.
Oh, you were in quite some time ago then. You went in right after 9/11, pretty much.
That's the other thing to understand about post-traumatic stress disorder. It's rarely diagnosed until years after you've already been affected by it in your life.
Right.
Now, when I got out, I didn't know what was wrong with me. There was a day where I felt like I had to escape. I was at home and I was painting. And I was listening to the radio. And I felt this unbearable trappedness.
Like claustrophobic almost, eh?
Very
inside
claustrophobic.
of yourself.
I had to get out. I had to go somewhere. So I got in my Jeep and I just started driving. And I had this realization that no matter how far I drove, no matter where I went, I couldn't get rid of that feeling. I couldn't feel free. And I ended up back at home in the fetal position in the house, just shaking and crying. And my husband at the time came home, peeled me up off the floor, and he was just holding me, and he didn't know what was wrong with me either. I didn't know.
Was your husband a veteran also?
Yeah, he was still enlisted.
So, and do signs of PTSD manifest themselves while you're still actively in service?
Oh, yeah.
So you were already having
a majority of veterans who end up with severe PTSD have a history of sexual trauma as children.
Okay.
So
there's already PTSD kind of embedded because I from what I understand, that's the result of childhood sexual trauma. It basically is PTSD, right? So there's already an element of this going on, and then you have circumstances when you're in the military that exacerbate that and bring it to a bigger situation, kind of. Is that?
Yeah. Well, the military had a lot of bad habits.
Yes.
as far as the toxicity goes, and how, say, overweight people are treated and women are treated. And how gays are treated.
I think it's probably a lot. Like I said, I never served in the military, but I did get caught up in a cannabis conspiracy case and served 8.5 years in federal prison in the U.S. And I would imagine that inside the military culture amongst the soldiers, it's very much the same type of environment, right? Where there's not a culture of tolerance and support, but one more of bullying and teasing, and you know what I mean? Like, because you have a lot of cocky young guys.
Everybody wants to be a badass. Everyone's trying to be hard.
Exactly, right? So I can't see it from that point of view that you're saying, but I can understand it because of the time that I spent in kind of this same kind of environment in a weird way. High stress, a lot of tension all the time, because especially when in the time that you were serving was a time when they were in some major theaters, right? Iraq, Afghanistan, places where bad things happen. You know what I mean? And you're exposed to things that aren't normal for people to have to experience, right?
In my case, I was attacked by my fellow Marines.
No
and
way.
My enemies were behind the wire. When I landed in Iraq, I remember to this day, they gathered like all 6 of us women in this little tent, and they said, "We've just had 7 rapes in the last week, so don't be alone." Yeah.
That's if they know that this is a serious issue, they don't have a way of.
At that time, their solution was an escort service. So they would have a male driver and a little golf cart, say, pick you up from where you work and take you to where you sleep. And that's special treatment. If you're not walking like everyone else, you're a woman, so you're being driven. Nobody wants that.
Yeah, that's messed up. It really is, because, I mean, this is supposed to be, I hate to use the word brotherhood, but that's what, you know what I mean? This is supposed to be a group of individuals united for a common cause. You always hear soldiers talking about, you know, standing next to the man next to them, they'll die for the guy who's next to them and stuff like that. But yet they're capable of this kind of behavior that they're actually
you got to remember
against female service members.
They're all people.
They are all people.
Hurt people hurt people.
Right. And I imagine there's a lot of motivations for different motivations for people to enlist and become a part of the military, right? Because there are, as I know, people out there who do like to hurt people.
Yeah.
They enjoy that.
And
there are others who join because they want to protect people. You know what I mean? This is their motivation for joining. There are those that join because they're patriotic. There are those that join for economic reasons. So you would have such a plethora of individuals in that environment.
And you know, that was actually the most beautiful thing about serving in the military service, was to be placed in such an eclectic mix. People you never would have met if you had stayed home.
Right. Right. Oh, that's something. I'm sorry that you had those experiences. That's terrible that you had to because it's
but
like,
you know what? When as a woman in the Marine Corps, when I was raped, it got noticed. When I was a civilian and I was raped, nobody cared.
Isn't that interesting? Now, I thought the inverse might have been true, because the military would be more interested in
I
protecting
carved
its
the word
reputation,
no
right?
into my arm.
What's that?
And I carved the word no into my arm.
Oh.
So it was
okay.
obvious something had happened.
Right. Right. Wow. Were you treated well by the military, like in this situation, or was it, I guess I can only compare it to something I would see in a movie, right? Where this situation has been portrayed and you know what I mean? It's really,
It's
really bad. Yeah, you know what I mean?
So first of all, when I was raped, I didn't accept that it had been rape.
Okay.
I knew I had been assaulted. I
Okay.
knew I wasn't okay.
Right.
But I didn't say to myself, oh, I've been raped. So when they asked me questions about the rape, I was sort of disassociated.
Right. And that's kind of what PTSD can do, right? You can,
Yeah.
It's like you don't remember a traumatic event. Your brain has a way of, oh, excuse me, I've just been going through COVID for a week. So I still got
that's no fun.
Yeah, that's the problem. But your brain has a way of protecting you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? On some level, and not allowing you to recall specific things. So
another incident, I don't know what happened to me, but I woke up and I was on another base. I don't know how I got there. I was in a hospital, and the doctor was looking down at me and he was saying, oh my God, I can't believe you're awake. How are you feeling? I said, oh, I feel fine. What's going on? And he was saying, oh, your heart rate is this, you're lucky to be alive right now. And he asked me what happened. And I said, what are you talking about? Why am I here? My sergeant came to pick me up. I had been missing for 3 days.
Wow.
When I committed suicide in 2015, I went through with the suicide. I took acetaminophen dissolved in a bottle of liquor. A bottle of acetaminophen.
Okay.
That I dissolved in liquor. Drank it all. And when I was going out, I had this like flashback of being in that hospital. And in the flashback, I gave birth to dogs. And they took my puppies away from me. And I was screaming, and I was in this, I was like a zombie.
Okay.
I couldn't see anymore. And I was just running into the darkness with my arms out, screaming. A security guard found me. And I begged him to shoot me. And he said, no, hun, not today. And I was bleeding all over myself. I had pissed myself. I shat myself. I had vomited. Everything was coming out. And he called the medics. And they patched me up and put me in the psych ward. And it's my understanding that now that flashback was something my brain created. Well, whatever happened to me was happening to me.
Right.
It was trying to make sense out of whatever happened to me.
Okay. So for you, it must be another level of difficult to, I don't know how to actually phrase it, but because you have no recall of the actual trauma that's created the PTSD for you, it's difficult maybe for you to reconcile with what occurred. Is that?
Well, I was probably drugged.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense in a situation that would take you out for 3 days for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that would make sense.
The whole giving birth to dogs thing I experienced. was probably a trip from that drug-induced super.
Oh, like a
Yeah.
type thing, like you would get from LSD or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Wow. Huh. Well, that's a horrible thing to have to experience. And, you know, I really appreciate the fact that you're spending time with us today and talking openly about your experience, because I don't know if it's easy for you or not easy for you, but it's appreciated. And what we want,
been a long road of therapy.
Oh, I bet.
But I can talk now.
Oh, that's good. Because really what we want this to be, the Cannabis Chronicles, is a platform where we can actually help people come to understand how cannabis can be beneficial in their lives, right? How they can find a pathway through many different things, be it cancer or PTSD or anxiety and depression or Tourette's or whatever the condition is, that there is clinical evidence and evidence presented that shows that cannabis may be beneficial. We want people to feel comfortable enough to go and see a healthcare provider, to move forward with looking at this as a potential option and at least try it, right? Because there's a lot of people in society that this can help. Cannabis has been prohibited for so long that there's a real stigma around its use and the people who use it. So people who can benefit from the inclusion of cannabis in their life are sometimes reluctant to try it because of these things. And with people like you, Katie, coming and talking about your experience and how cannabis has helped you, then that couldn't help somebody else. Because although, you know, when we have a stream like this, we might have 15 or 20 people. This stays online for a long time. So you never know who may see this down the road, 6 months from now, a year from now, who can say, you know what, this story I can relate to. And if this was able to help Katie, then maybe I should talk to my doctor. And that's what it's about. So I really, really appreciate the fact that you're here talking about this candidly, you know?
Indica is good for making you forget your dreams. So if you have post-traumatic stress disorder and you're struggling to sleep because of the nightmares, cannabis can help you.
Oh, yeah, definitely is good for sleep, for sure. Cannabis is good for sleep. So how did you first learn about medical cannabis and its potential to help you with PTSD?
I didn't learn about it as medical cannabis.
Okay.
I was in my artistic circles, and they're a little wild. And I was introduced to cannabis off the streets. And the first time I did it, I think it was laced with something, because I had what could probably be best described as a schizophrenic episode.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I didn't touch it after that.
Right, because an experience like that would tend to put you off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And how many years ago was that, Katie?
That was in 2007, after I got out of the Marine Corps.
So it was
no
shortly after
curiosity about ever trying drugs, ever using drugs, ever touching drugs, or even smoking a cigarette.
Right.
Until I heard everybody's stories while I was enlisted. And everyone was reliving the good old days and talking about all the things they were going to do when they got out. And when we got out, me and some other Marines went and got high.
Nice. And so you started using cannabis recreationally.
Yes.
That was your initial. Well, you said you actually took a break from the first time because you had an experience that wasn't pleasant or comfortable for you. So when did you decide to try again?
I had a friend I refer to, I'll call her the Green Fairy.
Okay.
She always was smoking and offering. And I sat there and smoked with her. And we recorded it. We were trying to do a podcast at the time.
Okay.
And I still have that recording somewhere. We have the funniest conversation. It's nothing publishable. And we're just giggling for like 3 hours. We're just giggling, cracking jokes back and forth, trying to carry a conversation, and it's just turning into shit.
Yeah, you're just laughing. Yeah, but that's a beautiful thing, right?
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Yeah,
and at that time, I was dealing with severe depression.
Okay.
So the cannabis allowed me to feel happiness again.
Oh, that's great. And that's when you thought to yourself that, you know what, maybe this is something that can help.
Yeah.
And did you go right away into being a regular consumer, or did you give it some thought in between? Or
it was hard for me to get because it wasn't legal yet.
What state are you in, if you don't mind me asking?
Mexico.
You're in New Mexico, so you're legal now.
Yes.
Yeah, both medical and
recreational now.
Yeah, both sides of it.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's good that you have access, and so
I think the most important thing about using cannabis is educating yourself about
absolutely.
the possible effects you could experience based on the strain, based on the terpenes, based on the THC content, and based on your own personal brain chemistry.
Yeah, because everybody responds differently. Katie, if you don't mind, our producer Garrett is saying it is time for our second commercial break. So please stick around. We'll only be about 2.5 minutes, and we'll be right back at it, okay?
Okay.
Thanks. Go ahead, Garrett.
Badger Heart Puppetry. Badger Heart Puppetry. Badger Heart Puppetry. If you need some kick-ass puppets, contact Forge at 1-636-234-1535. He has all your puppet needs. He can fix puppets, build puppets, custom-made puppets. He has puppets off the rack for cheap prices. Contact Forge today at 1-636-234-1535 or on TikTok or Facebook at Badger Heart Puppetry. He also makes LARPing items too.
Are you in the Ellensville or Middletown, New York area? Revamp your space with Collins Paints Ltd. Ugly walls? Let Collins Paints Ltd. add a splash of color to your world. Collins Painting is a veteran-owned and operated business. They can transform your space to whatever your heart desires. Say goodbye to the boring beige and hello to possibilities of bright and vibrant colors. The Collins Painting team are a group of skilled professional painters who will turn your vision into reality. Call Collins Paint Ltd. today to get a fast and easy quote. Available Monday through Fridays, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Call them at 845-869-8176.
Hey, Mrs. Hippie, why don't we take a ride to Dauphin, PA today?
Dauphin? What's in Dauphin?
Bella's Badass Crystals.
Oh, but I thought you hang out with them on Facebook and on TikTok.
That's only on Mondays, Tuesdays, Saturdays, Sundays. Today I want to go there and pick up all my great finds.
That sounds like a great road trip. That's Bella's Badass Crystals on TikTok and Facebook, but you can also find them on the top of the mountain in Dauphin, PA.
They are badass.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Are you looking to have some crocheted made by hand stuff like your Grammy used to do for you? Then you need to check out You Have Me Hooked 23 on Etsy and TikTok. Vern can do what you need. She crochets hats, she crochets animals, everything, anything you may need. She also makes vinyl stickers, banners for your business. Anything that you might want that she can do, she can definitely do it for you. Want an I Hate My Ex sticker? She's got you covered. Anything, and I mean anything that you may need. She has cheap and reasonable prices. Check her out. You Have Me Hooked 23 on Etsy and TikTok.
Are we back?
Hey, there we go. So I always forget that because we always have the 420 song after the first commercial, and I forget that we only have the one at the top of the hour. So, so you're talking about it's important to learn about cannabis. You think it's important for people to understand.
Not just cannabis.
Well, when you're trying to select a strain for yourself or what you're going to use, right? Well, how do you go about selecting what's right for you now? Do you journal your consumption?
I used to use an app.
Okay.
I can't remember what it was called, but they have this app where you can track your strains and how they affect you.
Yes.
So I used that at first.
Okay.
I'm more of a frugal shopper now. So I'll tend to buy whatever the best, most cannabis I can get for the least amount of money is.
Okay. Do you get any support through like the Veterans Administration or anything like that for your cannabis?
I get scolded.
Well, that's, because we were not that long ago, we were looking at some news that was coming out about the Veterans Administration and their talk with doctors about psychedelics for veterans. But they were recommending that the doctors do not recommend cannabis. So they were saying on one hand psychedelics might be good, but they were still telling the doctors not to discuss cannabis with the veterans. And that was hard for me to understand because I live in Canada.
That's very strange.
And yeah, last summer, during work, I had to spend about a week doing an install at the home of a Canadian military veteran who had, I think, about 21 years of service. He had been, a full-time service member for a long time. And with me, the conversation always comes around to cannabis at some point in time. No matter what I'm doing in my life, it's always, it's always there, right? I've never hidden my cannabis use or anything. So we got into talking about cannabis, and he said, "You know what, Dave? Come with me." And he takes me into his garage, and he opens up this cabinet, and it is full of cannabis products, edibles, strips, drinks, pre-rolls, vape carts. And he had so much stuff there. And I was like, "Enzo, what's all this?" And the government provided it to him because he suffered from PTSD from his service.
Mm-hmm.
And this was provided to him by the Canadian government at no cost.
Yeah.
And
imagine that.
Just about a month ago, they released figures here in Canada for what the federal government spent last year in 2022 in providing medical cannabis to veterans. And it was $167 million was funded by the government for medical cannabis. Also, I used to sell accessories, and we had a veterans clinic in Halifax that was specifically for treating veterans with cannabis, where they would go for this sort of thing. And we used to supply them with vaporizers because they would provide vaporizers to the veterans because smoking isn't really the safest and healthiest way to consume cannabis. Not that there's really anything dangerous, but if you can vape, if you want to go with inhalation, it's always better. And the government didn't want them.
You got to be careful with the vapes too.
Well, with the cartridges,
on the binders they use and the chemicals that are in the vape pen, you could get popcorn lung or something.
Oh yeah, when it comes to the liquefied cartridges, you do have to be careful, and you really have to know the manufacturer, right? It's a different system you function on in the States than here in Canada. Here is highly, highly regulated. So everything has to go through Health Canada. When a product's manufactured, it has to go to 3 different labs, be tested. The COAs have to be sent to the government. The government sees the COAs. Then they give you approval. Yeah, there it's a little bit different.
The FDA is owned by the American oligarchy.
But part of the problem is that you don't have federal legalization. So the burden falls upon the states to set their own boundaries for cannabis, both recreationally and medically, if it's been allowed in that particular state. So it's very difficult to standardize it across the country. And plus, because of the status in the US, the way that cannabis is scheduled, specifically Delta 9 THC, it opens the market up for D8, D10, HHC, all these chemically derived things from the cannabis plant that aren't naturally occurring in them, but are chemical processing after to make them available on the market. That's where it gets a little bit. Yeah, it makes them dangerous. You know what I mean? Because there are two kinds of people in the cannabis world. There are the ones who are in it for passion, and there are the ones who are in it for the money. I would deal with a passionate producer 100 times out of 100 before I deal with a money producer once. You know what I mean? Because I've worked with both, so I know. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, how has cannabis impacted your life? I mean,
it helps me process my emotions. So one of the problems I had before I was heavily medicated was I had no volume control on my feelings anymore. So when I felt sad, I felt completely, absolutely helpless, worthless, not worthy of being alive. And when I felt happy, I was having a really great time. Manic. Up for days. I still do that. But cannabis is good for those times when you can't feel anything and you need to feel again. Sometimes you smoke and you feel depressed, actually. But that's not the cannabis depressing you. That's you feeling what you feel.
Right.
And it passes. And you can feel happy again.
Yeah. Yeah, because some drugs that you take are like amplifiers, right? So let's say magic mushrooms, LSD, the state of mind in which you enter the experience is the state of mind which will be amplified during the experience, right? So if you took acid and you were having some anxiety before, but then you ran into your friends or you were going to the party and everybody was dropping a hit, so you were like, you know what, I'm gonna take it anyway, but your state of mind wasn't correct before you entered the experience. The potential for a negative experience is definitely increased, right, based on state of mind, because they work like an amplifier. But cannabis isn't quite the same thing at all, right? It can kind of, I hate to compare it to alcohol, but people say that alcohol takes the edge off. You know what I mean? When people who drink and they, you know, for social anxiety or things like that, they say that alcohol just kind of takes the edge off and allows me to deal with it. But cannabis, I guess, would be more comparable in that situation, because what you're talking about, basically the cannabis is helping take the edge off and allow you to find a better balance, kind of, for...
You know, I think it has something to do with chemical flow.
Okay.
I think we are bags of meat chemicals just blowing off in the universe. And whenever we are experiencing an emotion, it's a chemical cocktail, which is going off in our brains and our bodies and our guts.
Yeah.
So when you add cannabis to that, I feel like it lets everything flow.
Well, that would make sense, because cannabis interacts with the endocannabinoid system. And the ECS is the system that's designed to regulate all systems in the body, right? So THC and CBD interact with that system. And this is what helps create stasis or balance. So that would make sense, right? Because I think you're 100% right. We are just basically meat and chemicals. And everything you experience is the result of a chemical reaction. You know, from from one molecule crossing the synapse to another molecule, you know what I mean, or a receptor or whatever it is. See, despite it saying Dr. High there, I'm really not a doctor.
Oh, you're not.
It might say
didn't know
Dr. High, but I'm not a doctor. No, I'm not a doctor. It was just a nickname that was given to me because I started working with a lot of people who were interested in cannabis as medicine for them. And I had access to doctors who were prescribing actively in Canada. So I spent some time as an intermediary doing patient-doctor matching. And I sat in on all of these conferences. So I got to learn from the patient side what they were dealing with in their lives that led them to believe that cannabis might help them. And then hearing what the doctors had to say about why cannabis may help them or may not help them, right? So I got both the patient side and the medical side as an observer. And because of my experience in the cannabis world, once people were prescribed, I helped them get through the process of getting their own cultivation licenses if they wanted to grow for themselves, coaching them through how to begin the process of using cannabis, you know, more like a coaching type situation, right? And I got the nickname Dr. High through that. Cool. And it's just been a nickname that's appropriate for what I'm doing now, right?
Yeah.
Which is trying to help people learn about cannabis, to bring some education and information out there. Because I think it's important that people realize. Now, you were prescribed medications, obviously, throughout the course of your treatment.
Yeah, actually, I did a lot of research because I was terrified of SSRIs and antipsychotics and opiates.
Okay.
I was terrified of the prospect of changing my brain.
Yes.
And being dependent on a pill to be who I am.
So how would you compare cannabis to other forms of therapy for PTSD?
Oh, well, what I like about cannabis compared to, say, duloxetine is the immediacy. I don't like edibles as much as I like smoking.
Yes.
Because I will tend to smoke when I feel sad in the moment. So just to get a little bit through the depression, depending on what's going on.
Right. Yeah, because inhalation is the quickest method of delivery.
Yeah.
So instantaneous.
Duloxetine's a little scary because it has a delay. Such a long delay. First of all, it needs to build up in your system before it has an effect.
Right.
And then once it builds up in your system, nobody can tell you exactly when that's going to be. Then you will start to feel the effects of having more dopamine.
Okay.
And it's so subtle. And it changes who you are. Because you think, it's not like, oh, I just smoked some pot. I feel giggly because I smoked some pot. It's like hidden, invisible. It's again what makes people think that the medication isn't needed.
Because it's so subtle in the experience that you're having. Now, these other treatments, do they come with side effects? Outside, I mean, so not only are you right,
the effects of withdrawal are horrible. Now, at this moment, this is day 8. I'm off my meds. I'm using cannabis. And I'm microdosing with psilocybin.
Okay.
But I am no longer on aripiprazole and duloxetine. Now, when I went camping with my dad and my brother, I ran out of my meds right before we left. So I was out there in the middle of the woods, off my meds for 5 days. I had diarrhea on day 2. I had flu-like symptoms on day 3. So I was shitting and throwing up all over the woods, dancing around the campfire, just allowing myself to be crazy.
Right.
And it passed. And I feel my feelings again. I can think more clearly.
So do the meds that they're being prescribed for PTSD tend to be like numbing? They kind of numb your mind and numb your emotions.
They turn the volume on your emotions all the way down.
Right. Because I mean, I saw guys when I was in the States where they were giving them stuff like lithium and things like that, right?
Yeah.
And just basically turning people into zombies.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, right? Just devoid of emotion or expression, or
when you're in so much pain, so much emotional pain that you don't want to be alive, feeling nothing is better than feeling what you feel.
Right.
But when you feel nothing long enough, your heart is just a clock ticking.
Yeah. Yeah, no, in some ways I can understand that, because going through what I went through, being locked up, I left 2 small children and a wife to do that. And it was very difficult because I was far away from them, and it was very difficult to see them. And I went a couple of years at times without seeing my kids or my wife. We maintained, the telephone, but we couldn't see each other. So, and in that environment, which is so dangerous and volatile, you have to shut down. You know what I mean? You have to shut down your emotion. You have to shut down what you feel at Christmas.
That stifles all your ability to heal and grow.
And it's very hard to recover from. It's been 12 years for me since that experience ended. And I find it still very difficult to get that Christmas feeling or the excitement over a special event. It just doesn't manifest anymore. And I would imagine that the drugs that they're giving to deal with the PTSD kind of leave you the same way, huh?
Yeah, they do. And they destroy your liver.
On top of it all. Right?
They're worse for you than drinking alcohol.
Oh, I bet. So you solely medicate now with cannabis and psilocybin?
Yeah.
That's incredible. When you're microdosing, how many
Kung Fu.
And Kung Fu. Well, that's for the mind, right? That's for the mind. Yeah. Because that's one thing that I think that martial arts is really, really beneficial for. Forget the fact that you can learn to defend yourself, but it's a psychological thing, right? Martial arts is about discipline and peace and being centered. And so I can see where that would be really beneficial, because it's as much about controlling your mind as controlling your body.
It is all controlling your mind.
Yeah.
Your body. It's just an extension of your mind. The one thing psilocybin taught me, the first thing psilocybin taught me, was that my mind was in my big toe.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. I remember I could feel an awareness in every ligament.
There's a lot of things coming out now about the potential of magic mushrooms and psilocybin for many things that are mind related, right? Anxiety, end of life situations, PTSD, a lot of things. And it's not at a dosing level where if you want to recreationally take magic mushrooms, where maybe you're going to take a gram and a half, or 2 grams. When you were talking about microdosing, you're taking what, 100 milligrams, maybe 200 milligrams a day?
Yeah.
Right in that range. And you take it just one time a day or twice a day with the mushrooms?
More like once a week.
Oh, you take a small dose like that just once a week?
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
Now,
and you find the benefits.
Whenever I tried using mushrooms while I was on my meds,
Yeah.
I had a little nausea.
Okay.
And nothing. Nada.
Okay.
The combination of aripiprazole and duloxetine blocked the effects of the mushrooms entirely.
Okay.
I think it also blocked the effects of cocaine, because at one point I had tried that too.
Okay.
Which I'm lucky. Not to be a cokehead.
Well, that's it, right? Because I'd imagine PTSD is something where a lot of self-medicating goes on with people.
A lot of
You know what I mean?
experimentation.
Yeah, I think because you're just trying to find a way to escape
Yes.
this cage that you're in, right?
Get me out of me.
Yeah, exactly, right. So you're willing to try anything if it's going to help you break free of it. So I can see that. And
behavior.
I'm glad it didn't work for you, because it's a bad road to travel.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
it's expensive.
It's expensive too.
Yeehaw.
That's for sure. How are they? Of course, New Mexico, I'd imagine psilocybin and peyote are
I've
things
never
that
tried
were
peyote.
accessible. Well, I don't know. I think I tried it many, many, many years ago when I was like at the end of high school, maybe just out of high school, but I don't really remember, because I've done a lot of crazy things like this in my life for a long time. Only given it up once I became an adult a few years ago. So, but it's interesting that you're microdosing just
little.
once a week. Yeah.
Even less than that. I did a little last night. And it was wonderful.
Do you use it in a tea? Do you just take a capsule? Do you just eat
I have the dry mushrooms.
Yeah.
I put them in a coffee grinder.
Okay.
Turn them into a powder.
Yeah.
And either put them in chocolate.
Oh, there you go.
Or add a little water and just drink it.
Ooh. Yeah, because they don't taste good when you got to chew them. That's
I don't mind them.
No, I mean, I've taken some magic mushrooms in my time. That's for sure. I got an ounce of them here right now. So I believe in them. I tend to do them more in the capsules, because I like the microdosing myself. So from Amazon,
I'll microdose a little bit.
Yeah.
But once, maybe every 10 years. I like.
Have you ever done like a therapeutic session with magic mushrooms, and a specialist who works for those, where you actually go and take a fairly substantial dose and then have the session? I mean, they're happening now. Have you ever had the opportunity to try something like that?
I used to listen to Radio Orbit, which was run by my friend Mike Hagen. And Mike Hagen, in one of his shows, told a story about doing 8 grams of mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, if nothing else works, take this amount, it's gonna work.
Yeah, it's a serious dose, 8 grams. I think the biggest I ever took was 5, and I thought I was going to die. So 8's a pretty big dose.
Well, but I did it.
You took 8 grams.
It was one of the best days of my life.
Wow.
I remember becoming aware of my existence as being a result of my body. As though I would not exist if my body did not exist, or a mind to occupy. So it was as though I was this faucet in the universe,
right?
Like a node in a network. And I was connected to everything. And every dream I had ever had, every horrible experience I had ever had, every time I had been betrayed, the rape, everything, it all made sense. It was all okay. And no matter where things were going or how things were going to end up, it was all going to be okay. I felt this inner peace, and I heard this drum beating. And it was the most beautiful sound. And I couldn't help but dance. And I went outside and I danced to the sound of that drum in the garden. And I could see the depth of the trees and the branches, as though I could see depth for the first time. I could see a butterfly lifting like an airplane. I remember playing with the cat. It was great.
Yeah, that's pretty
And
cool.
then I realized the drum was my heartbeat.
Mm. Yeah.
And I never needed mushrooms again after that.
Yeah, you know, there is some evidence that people really do only need to have one real serious experience to gain that insight, right? That's able to help them heal. Because that's the sad thing, right? Is that we can't ever change what's happened to us. We can't change any of it. What's happened has happened, and what's past is past. The scars remain a lot of times, but we can't change it. The only thing we have the power to change is what happens next, right?
Yeah.
So I guess being able to accept the past and put it in the place, you know, where you can respect what's happened and have an understanding is kind of a powerful thing.
Yeah. My favorite theory about it all is the egg theory. It's that theory that we're all really incarnations of the same person.
Okay.
Experiencing itself in this sort of embryo soup until it matures.
Huh. It's interesting. Yeah, back when you were talking about the mushrooms, you said something that kind of clicked with me too about being interconnected.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Being connected to things. Now, there's a really good documentary about mushrooms on Netflix that I watched maybe a year ago. And mushrooms communicate in the forest. They are all connected throughout the forest by this ability to communicate with each other.
They're the
You know?
oldest organism in the
Yeah, I
world.
mean, it's super interesting that you would say that you felt this connection. And I know from watching this documentary that mushrooms do connect. So I just thought it was really kind of a neat thing, you know?
I'm an atheist,
Okay,
not by choice.
right?
I lost my ability to believe in God.
Yes.
And when I take mushrooms, I literally feel connected to the y'all, the universe.
But that's spirituality, right? It's not the same
Yes.
thing. So being an atheist, I don't think is necessarily something that people just say, "Oh my God, she doesn't believe in God," or because spirituality is what matters. Understanding that we're part of something bigger, that there's a connection. I mean, there's a reason when somebody gets sick, and this would be somebody religious who's part of a church congregation, and that congregation prays for them, and they get better. Who's to say that that's not a result of that group energy of the congregation putting out there these vibes or this energy that results in the healing of the person they've sent them to? But that doesn't have anything to do with a man who sits on a throne someplace that we don't know, or, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what particular religion you follow, because what it all boils down to is the spirituality is what matters. So
Yeah.
you can not believe in God. It doesn't matter whether you believe in God, but if you're spiritual, which is the experience you had with the mushrooms that made you feel like that you are part of this interconnected universe, that's really what matters, because that's what we are. You know what I mean? We're just energy at the end of the day. So it's the energy you exude that really counts, I think.
We're stardust with a bladder.
Yeah. That's right. Stardust with a platter. So cannabis, you smoke all day, or do you just smoke at night so you can sleep? Or
I think it's important to take breaks.
Okay.
So when I went camping, I went 5 days. No smoking.
Okay.
I'm in my life going through something quite difficult at the moment.
Okay.
So I've been smoking a lot.
Right.
If I decide I'm going to program today, probably not going to smoke.
Okay.
Because I can't do math when I'm high.
It can make things challenging. You know, the hippie and I go on about this every now and again. And I tell him, like, I do a lot of work on the computer. So forever I'm using the mouse to go here, there, and everywhere. And right after I get high and I'm on the computer, I have to think more about where I'm putting the mouse. My reaction time's not the same. You know what I mean? You have to be more focused because there definitely is an effect on your abilities. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It does have an effect for sure. Katie, it is 1:20, which means we need to run a commercial and a 420 song, but please stick around because I'm really enjoying this conversation.
All right.
Garrett, it's time to get those commercials up wherever you are. I'm surprised that he's not already put the timer in here for us to let us know.
Have you ever pondered cannabis beyond the haze? Would you like to know more about this incredible plant? Dive into DrHigh.com. Unlock medical wonders, master home-based crafts, and debunk myths. Do you support our mission? Shop Dr. High AI Haze on Etsy for cannabis-themed clothing, mugs, and digital downloads using original AI cannabis art. Hell, we might even have some psychedelic mushroom items there too. We also have 25 books on cannabis and specific medical conditions available at Dr. High on Amazon.com. DrHigh.com, cannabis information, education, and advocacy.
Announcing CBG TV's Bud Break book. Get your copy now. Detailed strain reviews. Every purchase supports the ongoing efforts of CBG TV. Available from Amazon and at cbgtv.com or scan the QR code.
Say bye-bye to bottled water. Holistic Health Water has certified medical-grade water ionizers that make 7 types of water, including healthy alkaline. There's a 5-micron filter that lasts up to a year, and each machine lasts 25 to 30 years. Simply attach to your faucet or install under your sink. Even get a mineral spa unit for your shower. Go to ownyourwater.org to get a free ebook. Plus, pay for any machine in full and get an extra filter free. Change your water and change your life. Ownyourwater.org.
Discover the natural path to wellness at Tailored Herbs and Concentrates.
Herbs?
With a passion for holistic health, we are your trusted source for premium herbs and concentrates.
Wait a minute, do they have weed?
Our dedicated team is here to guide you on your wellness journey. Open 7 days a week, 10 to 10, ensuring you have access to what you need when you need it most. Tailored Herbs and Concentrates is located
at pot
2941 Highway 11, Burnt Church, New Brunswick, Canada. If you need assistance anytime,
I need assistance. I need weed.
Just call 506-871-4299. Tailored Herbs and Concentrates.
Where all the potheads go.
Nice. So I just want to switch things up for 1 second because about your art. Do you sell your art?
I shouldn't laugh. I'm not good at selling my art.
Do you have a website? Do you have anything that you're using? So if you could, tell us your website. I'm going to have Garrett put that into the chat so that people can come and check your art. And I 100% want to see what you're doing because what I see behind you really intrigues me and catches my eye. And I would like to, I think that's amazing. You know, like
Thanks.
beautiful piece there. And if you take a look at my website, you'll see that I'm really into art, but cannabis art mostly, but I like all art, but because I'm doing what I'm doing, I focus specifically on cannabis themed stuff.
I've been working with some cannabis fairies.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
But
the
I'd
fairies
really
and their
love to
wings
see what you, because I see mushrooms in the back here. Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
Mushrooms. I mean, like that is super cool. What mediums do you work in?
This is oils.
Yeah, that would be oil. Do you paint solely, or do you work in, mixed media or
Mixed
sculpt?
media is my favorite.
Okay.
I like to sketch right on the canvas.
Okay.
Build it up with acrylics, and then go over it, finish it off with oils.
Nice. Do you tattoo?
No.
No? Has it ever interested you?
It has interested me, but I would need like a mentor, and that's sort of a whole another life you got to go live.
Because that would make an incredible tattoo. And I know because I'm covered in them. You know what I mean? I love that kind of stuff. But your art is really cool. Hold on a second here. I want to write down your website. I would put it in the chat myself, but unfortunately, I'm on the phone and not on the computer, so I don't have access to the chat. How do we find you, Katie?
Just type my name into Google.
Okay.
Like Kilo Delta, KD Neeley.
Yep.
And Neeley is 3 E's. It's an EY.
Neeley.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we can find you just like that?
Yeah. On my website, should come right up. My website is my name, KDNeeley.com.
Well, I'm very curious. Garrett, could you put that in the chat, please? Yeah, because I think that what you're doing is pretty cool, and I'm looking forward to spending some time checking it out. Is it Garrett? Can you see the chat, Katie?
There it is. Yeah.
That's the correct website for you?
Yeah, that should be it.
Okay, perfect. Perfect.
Hopefully it's not down.
If it's down, that might be a good thing. It's because all our listeners are rushing to purchase your art right now. So, have you faced any challenges with cannabis at all? Anything that, what sort of challenges have you faced?
Well, as I said, it helps me process emotions.
Okay.
And a lot of what I've had to feel hasn't been easy. So for a while there, I thought cannabis just depressed me.
Okay.
I kept trying to use it because I wanted to feel happy again. And it just made me cry. But in retrospect now, because I did continue using it, I just had a lot to cry about. You know, it wasn't the cannabis. It was my real emotions.
Right, because they say you shouldn't hold back your tears, right? When they're there, you should let them go. Because that's almost like a cleansing in a way, right? That ability to...
I don't know what it is. It bugs me, though.
Yeah. Especially when it's at the wrong time, the wrong situation.
You're in the middle of talking to your boss.
Right. So is there any kind of misconceptions about cannabis you'd like to talk to other veterans about? Or is there advice or information you might give other veterans who might be reluctant to move forward in an attempt to use cannabis to help them get through the same sort of thing with PTSD?
You need to know that your environment is very important. You need to be in a safe place. And part of the problem with PTSD is you never feel safe.
Right.
But if you know logically, your door is locked, your stove is off, your music is pleasant.
Right.
You'll be okay.
Nice. That's good. Do you have you been a part of any kind of support network or anything like that that deals with cannabis and veterans? Is there anything available like that?
A little bit. I
Yeah.
used to work with an organization called Heroes Walk Among Us.
Okay.
I used to own an art gallery. And the thing I do at my gallery is every show would also be a fundraiser for something in the community. So one year we did a veterans art show and we raised funds for Heroes. And then I kept working with them over the years. They've since closed their doors, unfortunately. But, you know, Shane had a right to retire. He earned it.
You know, I think it's kind of, there are a couple other people that we are friends with here who've been on the show and we've participated in their podcasts that are very involved with trying to bring this information into the veteran community about the potential of cannabis. So there are organizations out there where people are trying to do so. And I think that this is one of the groups that can really benefit because there's so little downside to at least testing to see if the experience is going to be beneficial for you or not. You know, it's not like some of these other methods of treatment. So
right, but it should be used as treatment, right?
Yes.
So managing pain, understandable, that's sort of obvious. But when you're managing your mental state, that's a little more self-medicating. Maybe if you have an addictive personality, you're habitually doing it. That may not have, yeah. Now that may not have any negative impact on your life.
Right.
You know, and for a lot of people, it doesn't.
But for some, it does.
If you have PTSD, you can sometimes have symptoms of schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're dealing with schizophrenic symptoms, cannabis is a little no bueno.
Right, because it's one of the things that can be exacerbated by cannabis. Or, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the things. We've been fortunate enough to have Dr. Harris on the show with us a couple of times, who's a prescribing physician in Pennsylvania. And that was one of the things I asked him, is there any specific conditions for which cannabis wouldn't be the appropriate way to treat, you know, and schizophrenia is one of them. He says, you know, it happens a lot of times to people who are young, especially young males, I guess, who start using cannabis quite heavily in their early teenage years. And then by the time they're, you know, 20, 21, 22, the schizophrenia kind of just comes in. So, yeah, I could imagine that would be from, you know.
Yeah, I would say the other thing is you probably shouldn't be putting that kind of influence on your brain until your brain's done developing.
Right. And cannabis, you know, that's the funny thing, because cannabis really shouldn't be used by any individual until they're at least 24 years of age, when the brain has finally completed its development. In Canada, it's 18. Once you're 18, you can go. In the States, it would be 21, the same as the age for drinking, which makes sense, right? Because you can vote at 18, you can join the military at 18. So you're at a point in your life where you can make these very important decisions. But yet, this is a decision that should be held off a bit longer because there hasn't been a full development of the brain yet. So completely logical what you're saying, and that's something I agree with too. But how do you tell somebody who's old enough to put their life on the line for the country that they're not old enough to decide whether, you know, cannabis is something they should use or not?
Well, maybe we're allowing people to enlist too young. Maybe you shouldn't enlist in the military until your brain is done developing.
Yeah, possibly. But then I guess that wouldn't do the military a lot of good, right? Because they want those it's kind of a catch-22 from the military point of view, isn't it?
Yeah.
That situation, because you gotta want
It's
want the
hard
people
enough to
when
get
they're
people to serve.
yeah. I was just hearing about that the other day. There's a real shortfall now of individuals who are signing up, correct?
Is there?
Yeah, that's what I was seeing the other day. So, but it's getting to be a little bit of a crazy world these days. So we never know what's going to happen, right? It's a little bit scary what's happening these days. So how has using cannabis been able to impact your ability to live a better life now than you were prior to using it?
That's interesting. I don't know if I would say that my better life is a result of cannabis directly.
Okay.
Like whatever tool you use, if you're growing, you're learning, you're becoming more, not less responsible.
Right.
The simple truth, it makes me feel better.
And that's really all that matters
It's medicine.
at the end of the day, right? Yeah. Because that's what I think about cannabis is it's not that it can necessarily cure anything. I mean, there's evidence to show that it can combat the side effects of certain things. There are different things about cannabis that are starting to show, right, about its ability to kill cells, cancer cells, and stuff like that. But not enough studies been done. But what we can say with what studies have been done and what evidence is out there now, that cannabis does have the ability to improve the quality of life for many people, right? So although cannabis may not have been the direct cause of your ability to get to the stage you're at now, it may have contributed to having a bit of a better quality of life on that transition. Would that be fair to say?
It is fair to say.
Yeah.
And also, though, I mean, you got to be aware of what your goals are. If you are trying to do some calculus, I don't know if cannabis is going to be your answer.
Well, no, yeah, for some things it's not. That's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah, it depends on what you're doing, right? It's
yeah.
But as an artist, does it stimulate your creativity?
Oh God, yes. It makes me feel better, more connected. It relaxes me, and that allows for visualizations. When I started having severe symptoms of PTSD, it got to the point where I couldn't swallow. I remember I was trying to eat a burger for like 3 days.
Wow.
And when I went to the VA, they shot me up with something, gave me double vision, and told me it was anxiety. I was asked to try by a friend smoking a hookah.
Okay.
And the coolness of the vapor.
Yep.
And taking that deep breath and then blowing smoke rings finally opened my throat.
Ah.
So then I used to sit there and smoke hookah and sketch in my sketchbook.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've always enjoyed that. There's a pretty big Lebanese community where I live. I have a very close friend who's Lebanese, so always the pipe is available when you go for dinner or whatever. And I've always enjoyed smoking the hookah pipe for sure. It's a different experience, right? The fruit and and there's something about it because you can pull that thing in and you feel nothing. Yet when you exhale, it's clouds. It's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Kind of neat. Yeah, I think for me, I can remember very, very vividly some days in the summertime when you sit outside and smoke a joint, how much more green everything looks, how the colors become more vibrant almost.
Saturated.
Yeah, like it's kind of neat, eh?
Yeah.
Do you paint every day? Are you always active in creating?
Nope.
No?
I will do a thing. I'll make like 50 paintings in 3 months, and then I won't paint for 2 months. I'll be doing something else.
Okay.
Building something or soldering.
Huh. So you like doing a lot of different handy things then, eh?
Well, I applied to the city of Albuquerque rail trail program to send, I forget what it was called. It had a big long name, but they sent us to IoT. They picked 4 artists, decided they would teach them how to utilize smart technology to incorporate that into public art installations for the city.
Okay.
So I did that program, The Internet of Things, with Dr. Brian Reshap at Fuse, CNM Ingenuity, Fuse Makerspace. Shout out to them.
That's cool.
They taught me how to build my own circuit boards, do 3D printing, laser cutting, welding, C++ programming, CAD design.
Wow.
Oh, I built a smart room controller. It was a 20-sided die room controller.
Isn't that crazy?
It was for game and gay, D&D gameplay to influence the room based on what you rolled.
That's really neat. Huh. So you got all kinds of things going on over there, Katie.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool? Huh. Is there if in a perfect world, how do you think the VA should approach cannabis when it comes to veterans?
I don't think there should be a difference. First of all, in medical care for veterans and civilians. Everyone should have medical care. Everyone needs it. And the medical care system should be based on curing you, not treating you. More homeopathic, not controlled by patents that fund pharmaceutical demagogues.
Yep. No, you're right about that. And this is the reason I think this plant is having so much trouble in the US still. Is because
you
of
can
the
grow
fact,
it in your backyard. Where's the profit?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I think that cannabis should always be approached from 3 different points of view: medicinally, recreationally, and as a dietary supplement. Because there are cannabinoids that people would benefit from having daily if they could put them into your cereal. You know what I mean? Into breakfast cereal. It's good for kids. It's good for everybody, because ultimately what it does is interact with the endocannabinoid system. And the endocannabinoid system is so important in the way our body is regulated that, forget about THC. THC is its place, but it's not what cannabis is necessarily all about. There are so many other things there that interact with the human body in a beneficial way that if we just put aside the psychoactive effect, there's still so much good things. You know what I mean? And that's why it should be looked at as a dietary supplement also.
Yeah.
You know, THC does have a place, absolutely. But let's say in Israel, they've done a lot of research with cannabis and Alzheimer's and dementia. And they found that the beneficial dose of cannabis for an Alzheimer's patient is only 0.8 milligrams a day.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a low threshold that there's no psychoactive effect at all. but still beneficial, right? So with the way it's scheduled in the States, it can't be tested properly. Universities don't have access to it in order to perform these studies and to learn about the true potential of cannabis. And that, of course, only benefits the pharmaceutical industry, whose big interest is in maintaining the status of sickness without actually curing it, but putting you on chronic meds for the rest of your life. There's probably nothing sweeter to the ears of a pharmaceutical company than somebody who's got high blood pressure or diabetes or something of this nature, where those meds have to be maintained in perpetuity until you die. You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, that's great. We got another one. It's like the smoking. It's like the tobacco industry, right? They just love when they hook somebody on cigarettes because they know got a customer for life now. It's not $20 a day. We don't just make $20 off. You make $20 a day for the rest of your life, you know? So as long as
keep the
powers, because if you look at, you look at TV advertising, 80% of it is pharmaceutically related, right? How do politicians get elected? They get elected because they're the most visible politician for the most part. They're the ones who buy the most commercials, have the most signs out, have the most boards, because when people go to vote, they recognize that face. That's why, you know, perhaps Donald Trump has been as successful as he has, because he was really well known before he ever went towards the political side of things. You know, there's ideological things too, but so politicians need money in order to run campaigns.
That's our first problem.
Yeah, who donates to a politician? Pharmaceutical companies, alcohol companies, you know, like
we got to get the money out of politics.
Yeah. And the thing is, it looks like we got to run our last set of commercials, KD. So if you can stick with us for just 2 minutes more, we'll finish up. We'll have a little more conversation, and we'll thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been very cool. Go ahead, Garrett. You're going to run them.
Badger Heart Puppetry. Badger Heart Puppetry. Badger Heart Puppetry. If you need some kick-ass puppets, contact Thorge at 1-636-234-1535. He has all your puppet needs. He can fix puppets, build puppets, custom-made puppets. He has puppets off the rack for cheap prices. Contact Thorge today at 1-636-234-1535 or on TikTok or Facebook at Badger Heart Puppetry. He also makes LARPing items too.
Are you in the Owensville or Middletown, New York area? Revamp your space with Collins Paints Ltd. Ugly walls? Let Collins Paints Ltd add a splash of color to your world. Collins Painting is a veteran-owned and operated business. They can transform your space to whatever your heart desires. Say goodbye to the boring beige and hello to possibilities of bright and vibrant colors. The Collins Painting team are a group of skilled professional painters who will turn your vision into reality. Call Collins Paint Ltd today to get a fast and easy quote. Available Monday through Fridays, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Call them at 845-869-8176.
Hey, Mrs. Hippie, why don't we take a ride to Dauphin, PA today?
Dauphin? What's in Dauphin?
Bella's Badass Crystals.
Oh, but I thought you hang out with them on Facebook and on TikTok.
That's only on Mondays, Tuesdays, Saturdays, Sundays. Today I want to go there and pick up all my great finds.
That sounds like a great road trip. That's Bella's Badass Crystals on TikTok and Facebook, but you can also find them on the top of the mountain in Dauphin, PA.
They are badass.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Are you looking to have some crocheted made by hand stuff like your Grammy used to do for you? Then you need to check out You Have Me Hooked 23 on Etsy and TikTok. Vern can do what you need. She crochets hats, she crochets animals, everything, anything you may need. She also makes vinyl stickers, banners for your business. Anything that you might want that she can do, she can definitely do it for you. Want an I Hate My Ex sticker? She's got you covered. Anything, and I mean anything that you may need, she has cheap and reasonable prices. Check her out. You Have Me Hooked 23 on Etsy and TikTok.
There we go.
Woo.
Oh, I just found you on Facebook.
All right.
There we go. Yeah, I was actually just looking at your art there through Google. I just went to the images, eh? Hey, you got some beautiful stuff.
Thank you.
Just really. Oh, you'll understand if you get a chance to look at my website, you'll understand why I love your art so much, because I see you'll see the kind of ideas are right there.
I did a whole mushroom series. I don't have any of those up online, but they're all gone. But what I did was a bunch of flow paintings, painted all kinds of different real amazing mushrooms on each panel. I did, I think, 36 12 by 12 panels, and then resined them. And those all went to different people.
Oh, so nobody can see them now. They're all in private collectors' hands.
They're all in private collections.
Nice. So, we only got a few minutes left, about 5 minutes or so. So I'm wondering, is there anything that we didn't talk about you'd like to share about or emphasize about your experiences, or, you know what I mean? Anything you want to talk about as far as this journey for you?
Yeah, I think the first thing that's important is to realize that whatever's happened to you, if it happened to you, it's not your fault. Doesn't matter what you were wearing, doesn't matter where you were, doesn't matter. Nobody should attack you.
Never.
And the next thing is don't be afraid to tell your story. Everyone's experience is valuable.
Yes.
That's it.
Yep. That's cool. No, you know, yeah, what you were saying is absolutely right. Like, I hate to use the word, like, it's the wrong mentality, but it's true. You know what I mean? When people experience sexual violence, it's very damaging to the psyche, right, of that individual, because a lot of people take the responsibility onto themselves initially and believe that it was, like you said, maybe, you know, what you were wearing.
They don't even realize they were raped.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this isn't a crime of passion. It's a crime of violence. You know what I mean? Like, people misconceive what this actually is, right? Like, it's a crime of power and violence, and it's, you know what I mean? It's like people who prey on children, and it's just abhorrent. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand the mentality of individuals who can engage in that
human
sort of
species. We're an interesting bunch.
Well, yeah, interesting maybe, but not, you know, maybe from a clinical investigative standpoint, it's interesting, but I think from a societal point of view, it's just unbelievable, you know.
It's important
I can
to
see it, right?
heal enough that you realize it's not all people.
Right.
There's still plenty of wonderful people in the world.
Oh, absolutely. You know, there's good and bad everywhere. There really is. And you can't stereotype any particular situation, right? You can't stereotype one culture, one race, one religion. You can't stereotype them all, because it doesn't matter what cohort you belong to. There are good and bad within it, regardless, because, like you said, it's human nature, right? You know, it's human nature. So you can't pigeonhole anybody that way. So you're doing okay now, though? Everything is all right?
I'm actually in a rough spot, but I can't talk about it. It's going to be dark for a while.
Okay.
There is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, that's the important part, is the fact that you can recognize that and know that, and know that what's that? This too shall pass, I believe would be the, you know what I mean? Time does tend to heal wounds, right? But it does take time.
Yeah.
And it takes an effort too, I guess. That's a sad thing. Even though you're not responsible for what has occurred, you still have to deal with the aftermath yourself, right? You still have to find your own way through and come to a point where you can, not forgive, but put it in the right perspective, I suppose.
My boyfriend, when we first started dating, he walked me through a meditation.
Okay.
And in the meditation, we sat there and struggled to forgive everyone who had ever done us wrong, including ourselves. It was a really hard meditation. And it was the most beautiful memory I have of him. I think it's important to forgive.
Yeah. Difficult, I would imagine.
Very.
But it probably brings peace to yourself, right?
Hate is heavy.
Well, and that's the funny thing is hate really only destroys the person who feels the hate, right? Because the individual that you hate or the thing that you hate doesn't feel it. You feel it. You know what I mean? The person who feels that hatred towards whatever it may be, baseball, if you want, or whatever you hate, it consumes you, not the object of your hatred. So it really is more self-damaging than it is productive in any way at all, right?
Right. It can be energizing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I could imagine that. But I just think it's been awesome to talk to you today.
Thank you.
I really appreciate that you've taken the time with us and you've been candid and open and insightful, and it's just greatly appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been awesome. So I'm going to be looking at your stuff. I'll be, don't turn down my requests. I'll find you on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and I'm going to follow what you're doing. And I'd love to catch up again sometime with you and see how things are progressing and understand more about it, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Katie. Have a great weekend. And I just can't tell you how much I've appreciated your time today. It's been excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Garrett, if you can get our closing up, that would be awesome.
Answers on the positive effects of sticky green. Just hang with me, and in one day we'll smoke more than you've ever seen. It's colder when it's hot.